I could get council members to come online when their camera's on. Welcome to the 66th session of council, Tuesday, May 24th, 2022. This is a hybrid meeting. This is a hybrid meeting with some members of council and the clerk attending in person in the council chambers, and some members, staff, and the public attending virtually. All rules of procedure and conduct apply to this meeting as if all in attendance was in person. If during the meeting, any member of council loses their connection or has technical difficulties, we will pause for a moment to allow that person to try to reconnect. Within a few minutes, and assuming we still have quorum, we will continue with the meeting. The meetings are live streamed and recorded. We'll call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. And at this time, I'd like to make it known that Councillor Gordon has sent his regrets for this evening's meeting. We held a closed session at 6 p.m. and we rise and report that in the continuing interest of transparency and open government, the Deputy Mayor reported in open session the following outcomes from today's closed session meeting. Closed session minutes of April 19th and April 25th, 2022 were adopted as circulated and direction provided to staff. And now we'll move to the national anthem. We acknowledge that we are being hosted on ancestral lands of the Haudenosaunee, Mississauga, and Omami peoples. We acknowledge and welcome the presence of all Indigenous peoples, including the Métis, Inuit, and other First Nations from across this vast land, who also makes this place home. The lands we are on today are recognized in the 2-row wampum, dish with 1 spoon treaty, Treaty 27, and the Crawford Purchase land acknowledgement. We will move now to the open forum. The first 15 minutes of any regular council meeting, excuse me, will be set aside for open forum. Any individual may address council to voice opinion on subjects of municipal concern, excluding matters subject to public meetings, i.e. under the Planning Act. You can speak once and for no more than 3 minutes. Notice is hereby given that under the authority of the Municipal Act 2001 and in accordance with Ontario's Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, that all information provided for or at a public meeting, consultation, or other public process are considered part of the public record. Meetings are being held in a hybrid format with some council members and clerk attending in person and some virtually. Anyone wishing to speak at a council meeting can register in advance with the clerk's division or use the raise hand option when called upon by the chair. So if there's anyone in attendance that would like to speak under the open forum, please use the raised hand and we will bring you into the meeting.
We had no one registered, your worship, and I don't see any hands raised at this time.
Okay, so no one was registered and there are no hands raised. So with that, we'll move to the public meeting. Excuse me. The public meeting will be held to receive public comments on the proposed fee changes for the building bylaw. Following a presentation by Mark Parkinson, Supervisor of Building Services, the floor will be open to the public who wish to speak on the bylaw. Please raise your hand in the Zoom chat and you will be invited to join the meeting. Please note each person is given 1 opportunity to present their comments. And depending on the comments received, the bylaw may be enacted and passed this evening. Mr. Parkinson.
Good evening, Your Worship. I'm here to open for public comments of post-building bylaw. Due to deficit concerns, the Finance Division completed a report that was included in the agenda for everybody to read. This was presented to Council, and Council provided me with direction on changes they wish to make to the building bylaw. Included in the agenda are 2 copies of the building bylaw. One is a red line, which shows exactly what has been changed in the building bylaw. For the most part, it just has to do with fees. The building division wishing to become revenue neutral to Loyalist Township and to the township residents, where the burden of administering the Ontario Building Code is not placed on the residents, but rather on the people who are causing the business of the Ontario Building Code. If you have any questions or comments, or if anybody has comments, I will state that there were no comments received in the 21 days prior to this by any member of the public or contractor.
Okay, thank you. Members of council, if there's any questions for Mr. Parkinson while he's at the podium, we can raise them now. Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Parkinson. We'll open it to the public. If they use the raise hand feature, you can be brought into the meeting.
No raised hands at this time, Your Worship.
Thank you. Parkinson?
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor.
No raised hands are seen, so I will come back to council if there's any questions, or then we can raise them. If not, there is a recommend. Yes.
Councillor Porter sent a message. She's freezing, so she may have a question. Not sure. Just okay. Her internet is freezing. That's all.
Okay, she's moving there now. There is a recommendation in the report How does council wish to proceed? Does anyone want to make a motion? Councillor Town.
I move to receive the presentation and adopt the recommendation.
Thank you. Seconder? Do we have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Boudreaux. Councillor Townend, any comments? Seeing none. Councillor Boudreaux.
No, this was discussed in a previous meeting, absolutely.
Other members of council? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Opposed? Motion is carried. And the next is a notice of a public meeting, for community improvement plans on June 13th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Moving forward, confirmation of agenda. Do we have a mover? Sorry, is there any omission or amendments to the agenda for this evening?
Not that I'm aware of, your worship.
Seeing none, if there's no amendments, could I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Councillor Townend, so moved. Seconder? Councillor Parks. I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest this evening? Seeing none. Delegations and presentations. We have Mr. Kirk Corkery of Amherst Island Community Alliance regarding the ferry terminal signboards.
He's just been invited over.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Corkery. If you unmute yourself, you can.
Yep, thank you very much, Your Worship. Appreciate it. Members of council and Your Worship, thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you. I'll try the screen share here so that we can follow along, hopefully. I trust everybody can see the presentation.
Yes, we can.
Good. Thank you. At the present time, the docs have been completed, the electronic signs are working well, but we have a small problem. Township staff have refused requests for the community organizations to display community messages on the signboards. They're saying that they're for ferry messages only. Prior to the new docks coming into being built, the old signs were used by the community organizations, and we were promised at that time that once all the work was completed, that the full functionality would be restored. In the beginning of April, the Community Alliance was holding a series of focus groups with a number of the community organizations to see what we could do to help them. One of the first issues that they all tabled was that they could no longer post community messages on the signs. There is a policy that council in 2007 approved that stated, and it was drafted by staff, and it said you were allowed to put the message on. Ferry messages were first priority, other township departments were second priority, but community organizations could place their messages up on the board. This was what the policy was until the new docks removed the old signboards. The island community is small. There's a lot of people who are not technically, well, they're technically challenged. You have a lot of senior citizens. Not everybody has Facebook. In fact, trying to get communications across to everybody in the island, very, very difficult. As case in point, we held a seminar on how to do grant writing to improve the quality of the grant applications that were coming in. We got reasonable attendance, but there were a bunch of people who came later and said, gee, I wish I'd known it was happening. Same thing when we had a all candidates meeting. We'd asked the local people to submit questions. Again, people came in the day or two afterwards and said, gee, I wish we'd known it was going on. If Loyalist wants to have an engaged community, one of the key aspects is having the appropriate social media channels, and the signboards at the ferries are in fact one of those key channels. In the past, it was very difficult to update the boards because you had to climb on a ladder and put the little signs there. Definitely a problem if it's in inclement weather. Now it can be completed in a couple of minutes on a PC. So quite simply, the request is two small requests. One is the council encourage township staff to follow the existing approved policy until it's updated. And secondly, that council direct the township staff to update the existing policy because it's now an electronic sign. Some of the positions that were required to approve it are no longer in existence. Understand that staff doesn't have a lot of time, so the Alliance would be very pleased to work with staff in developing the policy and the procedures if that will help expedite the process. I've taken the liberty of putting a motion together for council to consider, whereas the new dock facilities and infrastructure are now operational, and where community organizations previously enjoyed the message space on the former ferry dock signs in Stella and Millhaven. Therefore, staff are directed to prepare a review of the existing policy for council's consideration, and therein present options for updating the policy with a view to the continued use of the signs by community organizations. I would be very pleased to take any questions. I see Councillor Porter's got her hand raised, so I assume she has a question. Back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you for the presentation. If I could ask you to stop sharing your screen, thank you. There we go. Councillor Porter, your hand was raised. Did you have a question regarding this? Or?
No, my apologies. My Wi-Fi is going on and off like crazy. And so I just switched to data on my phone. So hopefully that resolves it. But no, I do not have a question.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure. Other members of the council, any questions for the presenter?
Oh, no.
Seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Corkery, for the presentation.
My pleasure, Your Honor. Thank you very much for the time.
So are there other questions from council?
Just curious, this new sign, is it township owned? Is it MPO owned? Whose property is on that? Is there a way we can find that out? We could maybe have staff look into that, or if someone on staff could answer that now? Not sure.
Director McFarland, I'm not sure if that's a question that you can respond to off the top of your head or not.
Through you, Your Worship, everything on the docks is owned by MTO. We don't actually own any of that infrastructure. We do have access to it, though, to post on it.
The township itself does.
Yes, the township does.
Okay, thank you.
That's everything.
Okay, any other questions from council? Seeing none. Counselor Porter,
Excuse me. Yes, I do have a motion if you're ready to take one.
I believe we are, yes.
I move to receive the delegation and direct staff to provide a report on the community also sharing in the use of the message board.
So moved. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Counselor Townend? Mover, any comments?
Well, just that I think that what is shown here to be an older policy was common sense. And I'd like to see the community able to participate and utilize it. After all, the community and we as the people are the ones that actually own it. So access should be granted to those. And I'd like to see a report on some parameters of how it can be used. It obviously has to benefit the community as a whole, in my mind, but I'd like to get a report to clarify that.
Thank you. Seconder, Counselor Townend, any comment?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, I think this is the appropriate course of action at this point to find a solutions-based approach to address some of these concerns and also give staff the opportunity to be able to explain what the challenges are with respect to the use of the signs at this point in time.
Thank you. Other members of council? Seeing none, I will call a question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. And moving on to adoption of minutes. Adoption of the minutes for April 19th, 2022. Any errors or omissions noted? Seeing none. Could I have a motion to adopt the minutes, please? Councillor Budrick? So moved, seconded by Councillor Porter. No comments? I will call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Confirmation of the minutes for May 9th, 2022. Any errors or omissions noted? Seeing none, could we have a motion to approve? Councillor Parks, seconded by Councillor Townend. Any comments or? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Confirmation of minutes from May 14th, 2022. Any errors or omissions noted? Seeing none, could I have a motion to approve? Councillor Budrick, seconded by Councillor Porter. If there's no comments, all those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is approved. Human resources policy, disconnecting from work. This is from CAO, no. Sorry, Business Services Department.
Well, just bringing the HR manager in, your worship.
Okay. I see a couple of staff member coming in. Mr. Dickey or?
Yes, good
Please,
evening.
sir.
Good evening
Yeah.
through your, Mr. Mayor. Yes, there's no further comments at this time unless staff has questions on this new policy, but our manager of HR, Ms. Krista Wood, is here if there are any specific questions on the new policy.
Very good, thank you. Council, any questions for staff at this time? Seeing none, thank you for being available. Appreciate it. Council, we have a recommendation before us How would you like to proceed? Councillor Townend,
I move to receive the report and adopt the recommendation.
so moved, seconded by Councillor Parks. Comment, the mover, Councillor Townend? No comment. Councillor Parks? Seeing none. Other members? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Summer aquatic service options for township residents. Ms. McFarland, is there any, excuse me, any further updates or comments regarding this?
Through you, Your Worship, the only additional information is that the program that has been outlined in this report would only be possible in when we and if we are able to secure staff to come back and run the program. So what the final program would look like if council were to approve this would be completely dependent on the staffing that we can secure.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff from council? Are they present? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. McFarland. Council, we have a recommendation before us. How would we like to proceed? Do we have a mover? Councillor Porter? It's frozen. You are moving it, Councillor Porter?
Yes, so moved. Sorry. Maybe close again.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Townend? Any comment, Councillor Porter? Okay, Councillor Townend? Seeing none. Other members of council? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is carried. Update of Loyalist Township sign bylaw. Ms. Merritt's with us. Any additional information, Director?
No, Your Worship, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the Director from council? Seeing none. Councillor Booger.
Adopt both recommendations?
Receive and adopt the recommendation?
Yes.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Parks. Comment? None. Councillor Parks, any comment? None. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand or speak out. Motion is carried. Application to Renewable Energy Fund. Ms. Merritt's still available. Any further comments, Ms. Merritt, or just available for questions?
Yeah, nothing to add at this time, Your Worship.
Thank you. Council, any questions for the Director? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation before us. How would we like to proceed? Councillor Townend.
Yes, through you, Your Worship. I move that the report from the Economic Growth and Community Development Services Department, May 24th, 2022, re-application to Renewable Energy Fund be received, and 1, that council supports the application submission, and 2, that staff be directed to ensure that adequate access is provided to the public to attend and/or observe the proceedings of the Renewable Energy Vibrancy Committee.
So moved. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Budrick? Mover, do you have comment?
Yes, I think there's been quite a lot of attention paid to this particular report item by Islanders in the last few days since the agenda was published. I think a lot of questions and concerns will be answered through the due process of the committee's work. However, that leads me to the second clause in my motion, which is that I think it's absolutely essential that the work of the committee be open to the public so that the public are able to observe those proceedings, and there's no question about accountability and transparency for what is an issue that's of obvious concern and importance to Islanders.
Thank you. Seconder?
Either way, it's a significant amount of money being spent out of the two different buckets for the vibrancy fund, and I believe that everyone should definitely have the ability to see what's going on. Okay.
Other members of council? Councillor Porter?
Just may I hear the motion, and I'm sorry it cut out while you were saying it, Councillor Townend.
With your permission, Your Worship.
Yes, please.
So I move that the report from the Economic Growth and Community Development Services Department, May 24th, 2022, re-application to Renewable Energy Fund be received, and one, that council supports the application submission, and two, that staff be directed to ensure that adequate access is provided to the public to attend and or observe the proceedings of the Renewable Energy Vibrancy Committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's, I'll go back to the movers, Councillor Townend, no further comments. I'll just double check with staff. We got the motion and clarity. Thank you. With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is carried. Superior Water Shuttle accreditation. I don't know why I stumbled on that word. Fire Chief. Mr. Stevens, do you have anything more to provide or available for questions?
Nothing at this time, Your Worship.
Thank you. Council, any questions for the Chief? Seeing none? Thank you. And we do have a recommendation before us. Councillor Budrick.
Receive and adopt.
Receive and adopt. Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Parks. Any comments from the mover?
Standard training, need to do it.
Seconder, Councillor Parks. Anyone else on council? I'm just going to chime in my 2 cents that I'm glad to see that we're actually progressing and going to the extra step with the commercial as well. With the development in the township, I think this is going to be a huge benefit. And I know that our fire department can do it. So we might as well have the paperwork for it. So with that, back to the mover, none. I will call a question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Notice of motion or direct motion? Is there any motion of notice of motion or direct motion this evening? Seeing none. Excuse me. Consent agenda. For the purpose of convenience and for expediting meetings, matters of business that are of repetitive and routine nature are included in the consent agenda, and all such matters of business contained in the consent agenda are voted on collectively. A particular matter of business may be singled out from the consent agenda for debate or for a separate vote upon the request of any councillor. In the case of a separate vote, the excluded matter of business is severed from the consent agenda. Each and every matter of business contained in the consent agenda is recorded separately in the minutes of the meeting. Are there any items that any of council wishes to pull out of the consent agenda? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation for the consent agenda. Move. Councillor Townend. So moved. Seconded by Councillor Budrick. Any comments? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is carried. And there's no new business. Updates from members appointed to county council, committees, or local boards. Are there any updates that any members of council wish to provide? Seeing none. Members' privilege. Is there anything under members' privilege any council member which wishes to bring forward? Councillor Budrick?
Just like to acknowledge the passing of resident from Amersfoort, Joe Falcone, who a little over a year ago actually had a double lung transplant. Was doing very well at that, only to come down with a brain tumor and passed away in 7 weeks' notice, not giving him much of a chance to say goodbye to his friends and family. So it's unfortunate, but he was a very good man.
Thank you. Any other items? Councillor Porter?
Yes, my apologies. I keep going in and out of service, so I'm not sure. Are we in members' privilege right now?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Thank you. I do have something I would like to address, if I may.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay. So I do want to speak to something that's not easy to speak to, but it must be done. And it's to do with the code of conduct report complaint about me back, well, it's been a while now, but there's items that I was to address, and I would like to address them now, and I'm not sure how, but I will try my very best to do so. One of the items is that the councillor be requested to clarify her public statements at the meeting of June 28th in response to the MCIA report to provide clarification that she did not receive two legal opinions. So I'm not sure who I'm to provide clarity to. I presume it's council and the public. Am I correct in saying that? If anybody has any, anybody that has knowledge of this, this recommendation by council. I presume so. So that's what I'm going to do.
Okay,
So-
I recall the recommendation, but it's been a little while and I would have to refresh my memory as to the context, but please proceed if you wish.
Okay, well, I'll do it publicly. It doesn't say I have to do it publicly, but I want to do it publicly and I will. It says here that I did not receive two legal opinions specific to her pecuniary interest in her proposed modifications to the draft official plan document. And that is quite correct. I did not receive two specific legal opinions about the amendments. I received two legal opinions about the overall official plan. And if I gave anybody the impression that I received legal opinions about my modifications, I apologize for that. I apparently was not clear in that. So that I wanted to put out, and hopefully that clarity is taken care of now. The other thing that I'm having issues with is that the council receive additional training on the code and the MCIA be provided by a qualified instructor. So to be honest with you, as you know, I took off 3 months after this happened due to my health. I've had ongoing health issues. And I don't think it's any secret to anybody that I am not running again. I think I made that quite clear at the beginning of this term, that this would be my last term. And a few of you know that. I'm not sure if everybody knows that, but now you do. And that's mostly due to the ongoing health issues that I have. I have lung and heart problems, and they're very serious. So having said all that, I have been dealing with my health, and that has been a priority. And I did not get around to, I did at one point when I was feeling better, did seek to find a qualified instructor. And I went through Amos, and Amos doesn't have courses or any kind of classroom training of that nature. And they usually don't until just right after an election for new council members. And I did get an email from the clerk. I did seek out and request information through Mayor Rick Brzee, and he reached out to the clerk. And Debbie did send me an email back mid-March to give me some ideas on who I could speak to. Since end of March, for 6 weeks, I was really sick with COVID. And because of my lung issues, I was very, very ill. And I was not able to do anything. I was actually in bed for almost 3 weeks. So that was not good. And so I have not done that. And my 6 months is up apparently. So I'm asking council, because I'm not running again and because I've made that public now, that you waive that condition. And I suppose at the end of the day, if I didn't do anything with this, I'm not running again, there would be a very little consequence to me not to do it. But because I don't want to go out in a negative light that I did not even fulfill the request by council to do these things. I wanted to be sure that I tried to fulfill them as best I could. Anyway, I was to report back to you in 6 months on the remedial action. So that's what I'm doing. But I am asking if council could waive that requirement for the additional training on the code, given that I am not running again and never likely to do in my future, as I'm getting quite old now. So, and who knows where my health will take me. Anyway, so that's what I would like to ask council, if they could consider waiving that additional training, or at the very least extending it. If they feel I should still take it, I will. But I really see no benefit to anyone at this point. But anyway, there, I put it in your good hands.
Thank you, Councilor Porter. I'm just going to refer to the clerk, because that was a motion of council. Would there have to be a motion for reconsideration? Am I correct? Or,
I don't think you would have to do a reconsideration, Your Worship. I think you could pass a resolution to accept the report back, and if you're granting an extension or to waive that, then you could do that in the motion.
okay. So I'm not sure if all of council was able to catch that, but there wouldn't need to be a motion for reconsideration. There could be a motion to receive the verbal report, and any other directions such as an extension or waiving of it conditions could be included in that. And just a side note, I believe the integrity commissioner is a trainer as well. He was the one that trained council originally, so I'm assuming, yes, the clerk is nodding her head. He is a trainer as well. I think I've had it at the county end here, if I remember correctly.
It was a joint one.
Joint,
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we do have the request before council, and this is the appropriate location to, we can go ahead with that request at this point then. It's good, thank you. Sorry, I just like to make sure. I haven't had many meetings in this chair, so I want to make sure I'm doing it right. So I'll put it back to council. We have some options. We can receive the information and leave the request or the requirements in place and provide an extension, or we can waive, as was mentioned by the clerk. So I'll put it to council for their consideration. Is there anyone who wishes to make a motion? Councillor Town.
Yeah, so I've tried to type something up here. Through you, Your Worship, I move that contingent on Councillor Porter's declaration that she does not intend to seek further election, Be it resolved that Councillor Porter be absolved from her requirement to undergo further training on the code of conduct.
So, excuse me, so moved. Do we have a second? Councillor Budrick? Councillor Townend, you wish to make any comment?
No, Your Worship, I understand and have sympathy for the personal difficulty in addressing this matter. Obviously, it's not easy for colleagues to address it either, but I appreciate what Councillor Porter has put forward this evening, and I'm satisfied that we can move ahead in this direction.
Thank you. Seconder? No comment. Other council members? Councillor Parks?
I just wanted to say I support what Councillor Town has mentioned in regards to the motion. I think it's a fair and equitable situation based on what's happening and what's gonna go forward.
Thank you. And I can't recall, I know Councillor Porter addressed some of the conditions. I can't remember if there were others or not, but if not, then the clerk can be in contact. I'll just leave that open because I'm just unsure myself without having the document in front of me.
I can do a report back if you wish.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you. So everyone's commented. I'll back to the mover for final comment. None. I would, if that's the case, I will call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Sorry, I couldn't see one hand and I wanted to make sure I had majority. Thank you, Councillor Porter.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I appreciate Councillor Townend's remarks.
Are there any other items under members' privilege? Seeing none, I do have one myself. In fact, I'm just going to go take an extra step and ask Mr. Dickey if he is still available, if he could just come on screen, please. Thank you, Mr. Dickey. I know this is probably not what you want, but I'm just going to make a couple comments. This is Mr. Dickey's last council meeting with Loyalist Township. He's been here, I believe it's about 3.5 years now, joining in if October 2018, I believe it was. So only 3.5 years with us, but when you came, if I remember correctly, you probably had something like 25 years of experience and knowledge that you brought with you to this township. And we appreciate the knowledge and the experience that you brought with you and that you imparted while you were here. Very calm, understanding demeanor. And that, along with the knowledge, really has served council and the township well, I believe. And just to note that on top of that, along with a lot of other people, but Mr. Dickey attended so many meetings through the pandemic, during the state of emergency. Key player, was there taking the questions and making sure that everything kept moving ahead. And through that, ensured that there was strong fiscal stance for the township, and also ensured that every avenue possible for funding was not only explored, but chased and applied for, and quite often successful, along with his team. But every team has a great leader. So I won't take up really any more time, although Mr. Dickey, you will be missed. We wish you well in your retirement. And we trust that you will be departing with some fond memories of Loyalist Township, as we have of you during your time here. So I just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Dickey, for your time, for your experience, for your work, and I wish you well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I really enjoyed my time here. It's been a great team to work with and a great experience. So yes, I'll really good memories. It's been a good good time here. So thanks very much for the kind words.
Thank you. Thank you for coming back on screen as well. Okay, if there's no other members' privilege, the next is confirmatory bylaw. Can I have a motion for confirmatory bylaw? Councillor Porter, so moved, seconded by Councillor Porter, or sorry, Councillor Parks. I'm really stumbling tonight. And I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. The upcoming meetings, 6 o'clock, June 6th, Committee of Adjustment. Committee of the Whole is canceled. It sounds like we've got a very full agenda on the Committee of Adjustment, so we will be very occupied. And June 13th at 7, regular council meeting. So if there's nothing more, I would take a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Goodrick, seconded by Councillor Porter. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.